Glasshouse Mountains today for a bit of a look around up at the lookout. There's a couple of walks here. I think we can do them. I think they look like they might be shut off at the moment, but yeah, it's a pretty incredible little spot up here at this viewing platform.
So we're staying down in Beerwah, and we just thought we'd look for sort of some easy places to walk. And I actually found this website, and it's called Aussie Bushwalkers, and yeah, it came up with this one as being a nice easy one. And you don't even have to walk to the lookout technically, like the car park's like right there. So if you want an epic view of all of the beautiful mountains here in a collective way, this is a place to come. And the joys of having children.
What are you doing?
Running, good girl.
So we're hoping to do the walk, but yeah, the track's closed at the moment due to severe vandalism, so it's a bit of a bummer, but hopefully they get that fixed soon and people can enjoy it again.
It was an easy one, so it was only 800 metres to back around and look out.
There you go, 800 metres allow 45 minutes, so a pretty easy walk with kids and that, compared to some of them that are out here. They're quite full on, but what are you doing?
Are you being a froggy?
No, that's what kids do.
Daddy's going to the toilet. Alrighty guys, we are at our next destination, which is Mount Beerwah. In the background you can see we've come from the Glasshouse mountain lookout. They had toilets back there, and we've just discovered they have toilets here as well, but my recommendation would be go to the other ones because I think they're a little bit nicer. These are just your ordinary drop toilets. We were planning on doing a walk, but it is terribly signposted around here. We don't actually know where this walk is that we were going to do. We just know that the one down here is closed. It's the proper summit one. It's closed due to falling rocks, so we are definitely not going anywhere near that. Not that we were planning to anyway, because it's the summit walk, so I can imagine it would be pretty hectic, and with a small child it's never going to work. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see what if we're gonna walk along this fire trail looking thing. It looks like more of just a road than a trail. We'll see how we go.
Actually, yeah, this one goes up the side somewhere.
Yeah, this area also has picnic tables, but back at the lookout they had barbecues as well, which I forgot to mention, which was super cool. It would be a really nice place to have lunch and then come and do this walk.
Mom.
Hello.
Mom.
at the Stretch family farm, and what a magnificent little place this is. It's a like one person site, there's no one else. You're on like your own little pad here, and then like that's concrete but this isn't. And yeah, Lila's just over there at the chickens with Brett, and we are just loving life right now. This was a passion fruit farm back in the day, but they've converted it to ginger, and they've got another small farm. Actually, that's the bigger farm. This is the smaller farm, and they've got a lot of paddocks just down the corner and around, and they've got some sheep, and they've got a really cool philosophy here. They want to do some biodynamic farming, so they're in the process of doing that. It would be so cool to come back and actually see it when they've got that really up and running. They've got things like beehives, they've got the sheep again, like I said, they're a specific type of sheep that shed. They're called a dorper, I'm pretty sure, and yeah, you don't have to shear them or anything like that. It's a great little place to come, and it's only $35 a night for power and water. They've got a gorgeous little fire pit here, just here, and they'll take you around, they'll tell you all about the farm and their ideas and all that sort of thing. It's great. I'm really impressed with this place, and yeah, we'll definitely be back in the future. So I'll insert some footage of us yesterday when we were shown around by the son of the owner of these properties, and yeah.
So what we'd be looking to do is introduce more chooks to the property, so they play a vital role in that whole sort of system on the biodynamic and organic farming system. And so we're looking to sort of have them as a rotational grazing contributor, and sort of so it's about continuously moving them, so not sort of leaving them on one patch of dirt and then just, you know, that's it. They're sort of always on the move, and so just having sort of temporary fencing that we create those zones for them to be able to sort of contribute in those times. Yeah. And then this is us growing hydroponic ginger and turmeric. So in here, that's in there, but so we're growing in a coconut husk. So that's a coconut husk all blitzed up, and then that just really helps with moisture retention and regulation. And then at the moment, this is sort of conventional farming with a slow release fertilizer you can see through there.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering if
yeah,
it was.
And so that's sort of how we manage that, and we introduce nutrient through fertigation as well, so through our irrigation system. So this is what they call like a yellow turmeric, and so we grow 2 varieties here, and it's really sort of earthy, and you can have a good smell of that. It's really beautiful.
Oh, yum.
Yeah. And then we've got,
oh, that's amazing,
in the white bags, this is our ginger.
This is almost gingery.
Yeah,
this
isn't
one,
it?
it's, yeah, it's interesting.
And then this is some of our, these rhizomes are pretty robust. And so,
yeah, that's amazing. Oh,
and then yeah, and then
look at the
that's
juice coming out of them. That's insane.
yeah, and so the 2 main crops on this property. Yeah.
Oh.
And so this is our apiary over here. So we might just, if you want to take a couple steps back, because I don't want to sort of, that's just sort of their like highway in, and so we can sort of.
Oh yeah, cool.
No, that's all right. It's sort of, they're not as busy a hives as what you can see over there, but and a lot of them will probably be out at the moment while there's a little bit of sunshine. But, so what's happened here is Mum and Dad sort of began on that northern fence line with just like one flow hive, which is the one with the sort of nice roof line there, and then it's just sort of progressed into more and more. And then this season, so with spring coming upon us, if the hives and the colonies are really strong, or there's just not enough room for them, the queen at the time will just take half and just split, and they'll swarm. And so the start of spring is swarm season, and so as prepared as what we hoped we were, we weren't. And so we have had 5 of our hives swarm. And so, but fortunately for us, 1 landed sort of halfway up that avocado tree, and then the other 4 have landed on one of these pine poles. And so we're able to catch all 5 of them. And then so we've gone from like having, what was it, like 6 hives to 11 in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so that's why it's still pretty busy over here. And so the one in the middle there, in the random spot, was because we caught it on one of the poles over there, and we put them straight into what was going to be their brood box. You can't just pick that box up and move it over to the location in which you want it, because the bees and the forager bees will geolocate to that position. And so if you do it during the day and you even move their box like 2 meters, they can't find it. Yeah. It's crazy. And so we've got to move it every night. So that's why you see me out here in the night. A metre every night.
Wow.
And so it's just creeping its way.
So a metre's okay, but not 2.
No. Oh, just during the night you might be safe to move it more. We're just sort of, just because there's no rush for us to get it over there.
Just do it gradually.
Yeah, and so then you know that when they wake up the next morning, they're like, oh, okay, this is where we are now, and they go on forage, and then they'll come back to that exact location. And so,
wow.
so these are, so Dad sort of made like, boxes just to sort of, get them rehomed on the fly, and then you can see that that third one along is really strong. So you can see that they're at the front there, like it's really busy in there. And so what's happened is a really strong queen and a colony split, or swarmed, I should say. And so we've caught them successfully and then had them in the brood, and then they've just like filled that out like super quick, which swarms generally do. Like they just, because they're all primed, like because they all plan it. They know that they're leaving, they know that the queen's, like it's all ready to go. And so everyone's just like brimming to build. Yeah. And then they just like swarm, and then it's like, okay, let's make a new home. And so they've just been, they're definitely the strongest. And so they're, in a matter of like probably 4 days, they've like built out that bottom box. So they had like all blank frames just with like foundation. Mm-hmm. And so we had to get the super box on top of it. And so then they're able to start to build up. And so in between those 2 boxes is what's called a queen excluder. And so that's how you split off the honey production from like general bee business of like, raising new worker bees and all that sort of stuff, where she can't get up the top to lay eggs. And so that's why in the top box it's just honey. And they make more, fortunate for us, than what they need. And so that's why we can share in that. And like part of the first round like crowdfunding when they invented this box, and it's pretty cool. Like the whole idea is epic, and I would love to have all flows. It was just, as I said, it's just a money thing.
Yeah.
And so what's happening here is so these are all the replacement of traditional frames that we would have. And
what are they made from?
So just like a plastic, like a hard plastic.
Yep.
And so what happens, so you can see, we harvested this not too long ago, but they've started to fill up these cells. So in a perfect hive, you'd see all that. So obviously there's none in there. Yep. That's just a bit sort of from the last time that they'd utilised that, but they're just starting to fill this out now. Yep. And so, so the theory of it is that you've got one of these keys, and it gets inserted. Say we're going to do this one up into the top here, and then if you can see up in the bottom there, you insert this down to the bottom. I'm not going to do it because it will crack that. Okay. And then you crank that down, and so what that actually does is it raises. So if you think of the honeycomb in a perfect hex shape, let's balance that. So they're like that, and then when you turn that to 90 degrees, it has them opposing. Okay. And so that allows the honey to flow down, and it's really cool. And so you don't need to, as I was saying before, you don't need to take the frame out, you don't need to then cut the caps and then spin it and all that. So it really makes beekeeping really accessible for someone who doesn't have all of that gear. Yeah. But we're sort of doing it in the other way. But
what sort of bees do you have here? Like, so there's so many different, there's thousands of different, not varieties, what's the word? Species, isn't there?
Yeah, so I know them as just the European bee that we have here. So I've got friends who've got a native bee hive as well, and they're quite low on honey production, and so obviously these guys are really great at the honey production, and this time of year as well, when they talk about having a a big nectar flow on, so everything's in flower and everything's, you know, beautiful, and we have beautiful sunny days. Not quite today, but in those perfect conditions, they're just like stacking honey in and just, you know, just really doing it while they can. This is a window at the side which you can use to view how they're going, and so in a really, really strong hive, this would just be full of bees, and you would hardly see the comb. And so that gives you a good view, though, of they'll sort of work with that, but it's already got the honeycomb sort of architecture already built for them. And then with that key, once you crack it, that's when they sort of split down, and then that honey will flow down through there. And so
So how do they go? Because technically you're taking away one of their jobs.
yeah, I think it just allows them. They've still got to, I think, fill gaps, and there's still work for them to do from a wax perspective. But I believe that it just allows them to get on with honey production.
Yeah, okay.
So
they're a little bit more productive, really,
yeah,
in a way.
And so the bottom box is just fully traditional, just as normal beekeeping. The only innovation is in the super, as they call it, and that's the honey production side. So they've still got to do all the waxing and the comb creation and all that sort of stuff down below.
Yep.
It's just up top. And I think there's a lot to be said as well, where you're not sort of intruding as much on the flow as opposed to a regular box, in the way of you know, obviously just reefing a frame out and taking it away and all that, where this is sort of just cracking and then draining and then resetting it, and then you know, life goes back to normal. So, but more and more I get interested, and I'm loving sort of spending time in what is sort of becoming our apiary, and I really want to sort of formalise this area. So build some, you know, I think we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? We're just sort of making some really nice benches along here, and just making it a bit more of a formal sense, as opposed to, as you can see, like, things happen and we react and we put it on a stump and we so, but it's, you know, it's all a work in progress, what's going on here. So at the back of the house here, we're looking to establish, obviously we've got 2 raised garden beds that we've built, and then there's going to be another 2 that will sort of mirror to these. And so the top dressing were cypress pine trees that we'd felled and milled with a buddy of ours, which has really sort of finished them off quite nicely. And so we sort of got 2, I guess, like an A/B test going on. So we've got a more traditionally grown and fertilised garden bed on this side, and then over the back there, which we can have a look in a sec, is just pure organic and more down the road of where I'm trying to take sort of like the 3rd plot that we're going to experiment with in time, and so more of a biodynamic theory. And so over on the eastern side of the garden beds, where we're going to take down these current poles and infrastructure that we had where there was passion fruit, we're going to create like a composting area. And so that's going to be just a formalised area to sort of organise all of that and bring all the greens and the manure and all that, because we've got the sheep in the system as well, and the chickens, and then also our neighbours, with having the cattle, they'll then have the ability to sort of bring that into the system and then create these beautiful composts to then introduce into that biodynamic system that I'm sort of interested in and trying to get going. And so this is really cool that we all put together just recently. And then so it's going to be interesting. What
have you got in here?
All sorts. So we've got corn, tomatoes, radishes, and then they go down to sort of like zucchinis down that end, and then the magnolia is sort of meant to be like a natural defense of garden beds. So we're just trying to sort of, that's a cool thing, because Mum and Dad are fully open to all of these things, and we're just sort of I guess just trying them out. And then on the other side over here, so these are all heirloom seeds that a good friend of mine gave me as well. And so you can just see, like, this pumpkin down here is doing the best, and then I think there was one other one that popped somewhere else, but down there, I'm not quite sure. I just took like a video, I just like, when we'd seeded it with another good friend of mine, Jordan, we just took a video walking around, so we'll just remember like where we've planted and what they are, because we haven't staked any of it, but I think we'll do that in time. And then we used this in the other garden bed as well, but that's a mushroom compost, and so what they grew mushrooms in, and then once that's spent they just pass it on, and so that's a really good sort of top dress that we introduced into the soil. And then and then a bit of corn down here, and yeah, and so slowly sort of working towards that self-sufficiency and making sure that we can
Lala.
sort of
I'll pull it out.
yeah, just sort of just live on a closed loop system, you know.
So what have you got underneath here? Is this more of this soil?
So
or-
we've got sort of a mixture of the two. So we've got like a darker loamy soil, and then we put just wood in there, so big stumps just to sort of take up the mass, because you know some of the original thought is rock for drainage, and then some other theories, just some other larger, denser materials. So perfectly, you know, offcuts of the wood that we had when we felled trees and all that have gone in there to sort of bulk out the bottom of it and to let the soil drain, and then the rest of it where we just have like a lovely loamy soil, and then mixed in that mushroom compost. And then I think when the other compost that we create start coming online, we'll sort of introduce those as the beds will start to settle a little bit as well, and so it'll be important to sort of just keep them topped up.
You mentioned the other day something about some nitrous.
Yeah, that's done
the
this
weed.
end. Yeah, so the trialling of that salvinia, which is a noxious weed in Queensland, and so there was that white paper that we were discussing that had been written about the nitrogen levels being so high in it, and then putting it into like a worm farm to then create a compost from that material. And so again, looking at something where most would say, you know, it's a weed and needs to be eradicated, and you know, I'm not saying that that's not true, I'm just saying that we've got an abundance of it, and so we can try and make the best out of a bad situation, I guess. And so I sort of probably top dressing it on a garden bed probably isn't the most, you know, efficient way or best way to do it, but mixing it into those composts might be an idea, because it's already on our property, because you're not allowed to transport it between properties, but because it's on our property, we can sort of utilize it to the best that we can. And if it is a good ingredient into those composts, then, you know, it's why not? You know, it's just...
You might be the catalyst for something new.
Maybe. Someone's definitely thought of it before me, but we'll give it a go anyways, you know, because we've got nothing to lose, so yeah.
Very good.